criticize what corporations are doing, but we are in them. So we need to be, lifting our hands and saying, this is my opinion. And as somebody in this community, I think we need to do X, Y, and Z.
Hey guys, it's Ariel from the Work and Play podcast. If you're getting any value from this channel, and I mean anything from the tutorials to the podcast to the random videos that you see on this channel, then I just ask that you do one thing. Please subscribe. Subscribe and share this to anyone that you think this resonates with, and drop a comment below so I know what other things that you want to see next. Now let's get back to the episode. Welcome back to another edition of the Work and Play podcast. I'm your host, Ariel Young, and I have the wonderful Chita Kabulo here to share her story with us.
Thanks for having me, Ariel.
Welcome. So I think this conversation is going to be really interesting because we actually met in a place of work and play. And I think as your story unfolds on camera, we'll be able to see how we can actually learn how to instill some impact in our work and not always be so work.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited to share with your audience kind of my journey. So as Ariel said, I'm Chita Kabulo, and I'm an advisory manager at one of the largest consulting firms in the world. I work in the banking and capital markets space, but on the side of that, I also work with some of our corporate responsibility efforts. Specifically, currently, I'm on our Black Action Council, which was stood up last year as a response to some of the social environment that we were in. So really excited to talk to you all about that, but even in my past roles, I've worked in similar roles, and it's really interesting that a lot of companies have avenues where we can explore some of the social impact items that interest us. And sometimes it's not just social impact, but it could be, actual play, basketball teams and frisbee teams. And so there's definitely opportunities for us to bring more of our full selves to work, and do some of the things that we care about as we navigate the social, the corporate ladder, so to speak.
Yeah. The interesting thing is when I met you, so to give you guys a little backstory, I met Chita at it was like a social work mixer, because we have been in quarantine for a year. So I have literally been studying for my master's for an entire year. And so this was like the first time we even saw each other in person. So I met you. And what struck me about your story was you were at the event essentially because you finally have a seat at the table and the ears of people who are looking for advice on how to help the community in a more impactful and an authentic way. And you did that on your own time.
Yep.
So if we start there, how did you get tapped on the shoulder for this advisory role? And then what drove you how did I meet you?
That is so cool. I think, so all of it is, I want to help, right? Like in my job, all we do is help our clients, right? I want to serve, and I think if I had to write my mission statement as a human, or somebody said, you have to write your tombstone, what you wanted to say once you passed. And I think I wanted to say, this is Chita, she served, right? So I raised my hand at work when that came about, and the person who was tapped to lead it was on one of my projects. And I think when a client had an emergency, the reason he even knew my name is when the client had an emergency, I raised my hand and I read the regulation that the regulators were asking about, put it in a spreadsheet, and did some good work to kind of analyze it and get our client out of that situation. So that was our only interaction before he got tapped for this. So when he got tapped for it, I sent him an email saying, congratulations, let me know how I can help. And it was very simple. I wasn't trying to get on the board because it was coming directly from our CEO, and the chairman of the board was forming this initiative. So it was high profile, and I had only been at the firm, less than 6 months. So I knew there were other Black professionals that were probably more, positioned, in better positions to get, a seat at the table. There was only 40 professionals that were going to have space. So when I said, let me know how I can help, I didn't have the intention of, I want to be a part of this. I just really wanted to help. Maybe, form an email, go do some research, Google. That's what I had in mind. But lo and behold, I get the email saying, congratulations, welcome to back. And it really just was from him thinking, oh, she can do some research and like get it done. And so I got appointed to serve. But the reason I met you is, one, I'm Zambian American, right? So I felt that, I got this position to help Black people in America, but I identify with some of the story, with some of the experience, but not fully, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of, talk about imposter syndrome. It's like, I get the ear of the chairman and CEO of the largest consulting firm in the world, right? I don't know much about this topic, right? I had to, start listening to the news more, reading items. I got put on a team that was tasked with the several prongs of this agenda that were focused on the Black professionals, allies, and several other groups, but mine was engaging our Black community. And, it's funny because there were only, I think, 4 Black people on that team, and everybody else was an ally or another race. And so, the pressure was on, to show up, mm-hmm. And in the thick of all the other client responsibilities I had to learn quickly, and but everybody wasn't the same. I started taking pressure off myself because everybody was in the same boat. Like, we were not experts at the issue we were there to solve. Mm-hmm. We're experts at solving problems. And becoming knowledgeable enough to be deadly, and also finding the right people who are expert at what they do. So we started talking to people within the firm that were experts at policy, who were experts at corporate responsibility, who were experts at vetting, because we made commitments to donate money, and we were the ones to vet those organizations. So we started talking to people who were experts at all those things. And it was a very challenging but very satisfying and gratifying experience. And so when we met, it was part of that journey because we've evolved a little bit as a group from the immediate response to what is the long-term strategy for the firm. Okay. And if we're going to develop that, I felt that I needed to educate myself a little bit more and get connected to people who are actually doing the work, which is what the room was. It was interesting. Kayla threw it, and she's a social worker. I knew her from when I moved here. She was best friends with one of my first friends here in America. And so we vacationed together once. We went on spring break, I think. It's about play. And she's, we've been cool. And so when she posted that one, I went to support her. But the chef who was there, she's somebody I went to high school with. So it was kind of like this who's other room. It was I need to be in that room, right? It's perfect for me to go and network with them, but meet other people. So it was really interesting to kind of meet you guys and meet you and be connected because we have a similar background. You come from corporate America, so you get it. And I think everybody else was just kind of looking at me I don't know why she's here. But those are rooms that I think that right now the opportunity is ripe in corporate America to amplify and support groups like that, right? And amplify our voices. Mm-hmm. And I think that we all, as professionals, have the opportunity to kind of get that seat or take that seat, right? Sometimes I've found myself joining their different coalitions, and they send out messages and calls, and I'm subscriptions because there's a lot of information coming out to support the work that we're doing. Yeah. And when I see something interesting, I think I was telling you earlier that I'm the person who's just oh, I'm here, I'll take it, right? I joined a call that was talking about second chance hiring, and nobody told me I needed to join. Nobody specifically invited me, but I was curious, and I went, and it ended up being a small group breakout session. Oh, Chita from X firm, and I'm oh, I'm actually representing, but I was transparent about why I was there, what I was curious about, mm-hmm. and everybody was great about it. But, I think that there's an opportunity for all of us to kind of step into those spaces and advocate for our communities and help allocate money because the purses are open. Yeah. Help drive the conversations because we can criticize what corporations are doing, but we are in them. So we need to be, lifting our hands and saying, this is my opinion. And as somebody in this community, I think we need to do X, Y, and Z. My firm in the Atlanta office, we've adopted a zip code in Atlanta, and trying to help develop it. We have a middle school that we're working with. So, there are a lot of others who are passionate and helping, but I think that we all can bloom where we're planted, regardless of what we do, right? I am, again, in banking. I help banks not get in trouble. And people probably are like, oh my gosh, how can you live with yourself? But I love what I do. But I also can spend some of that time and some of my own time to influence things that are important to me. So I'm really excited about the opportunity at the firm, but also to work for a firm that cares enough to afford me that opportunity.
Yeah, you said something that was super powerful. To blossom where you're planted. Mm-hmm. And while your job is very heavily focused on banking, you have this innate care and interest in serving. Mm-hmm. And on your tombstone, just saying hey, I wanted to say Chita served is essentially, I think, the spirit that I met you with. Mm-hmm. And I think what I was drawn to was literally your interest in just learning. So while you were there, you came with the essence of I just want to learn. Mm-hmm. And you could have been the most knowledgeable person about banking in the room, mm-hmm. but you recognize that there's a lot more about societal issues that I can stand and learn. So if you take us back, you also said something that's really important that I want us to stick on before we change. And it's just that it's important for other employees to see that not only do we hate some of the things that we don't stand for the things that corporations do, we work for them, right? It's what you said.
Mm-hmm. Corporations be the people.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And if you feel some type of way, then you can be the change that you want to see. Mm-hmm. So if we go back to that point where you sent that quick little email, you said, hey, let me know how I can help. And eventually you kind of got swooped into the process. Where was your mind at? Even, you said it wasn't quite that I wanted to be on the board, right? Mm-hmm. But where was your mind at in terms of impact at that time?
I thought that it was a great response, right? I don't think anybody knew what it would do or what the goals were. I think there were some ideas, but we hadn't even formed what the message was, right? What we wanted to do or achieve. And we have done a lot. And so I thought that just the fact that leadership recognized that something needed to be done, mm-hmm. and had some action and made that decision, and it was a firm-wide, and that they had picked leaders that were respected and were high up enough and had influence to lead this effort. I knew that something great was going to come of it. So I think all of us were probably feeling a little bit helpless at that time. People were in the streets protesting. And I don't know that was necessarily how I could make impact. There were a lot of different things going on, and I think I was trying to find how I could, serve or rise to the moment. Mm-hmm. And so when I responded to that, again, it's a national program. I really just wanted to have some access to a way to serve or rise to the occasion. I knew that as a local office, mm-hmm. something was going to come up, mm-hmm. and I was actually thinking okay, I know this partner, he's the most senior Black partner in Atlanta, I'm going to reach out to him. That was kind of that's what was in the back of my head, I'll reach out to him when it gets announced that something's going to happen. But the national thing came first, mm-hmm. And the local stuff started happening, and it's so funny because my experience on that council has challenged me to think bigger, because I was still thinking pretty small. And I remember having an idea on a call, and the partner was yeah, but we have access to the power of Deloitte. We should be thinking much bigger than that, And I was holy shit, yes. It was kind of okay. So I had to reframe even the things that we can do, because as a firm, we have so much power in our brand, but we had access to when we were starting talking to our corporate governance team, they were asking us how they could serve us, right? And I'm sitting here what? Is this how it works? Because who was directing, who gave us power, the CEO and the chairman, people who have influence on the Hill, were asking us how they could serve us, right?
Yeah.
And so like, I mean, that's it probably gets bigger, but this is as big as it can get. I was just thinking like, maybe we go to businesses and like help them set up. And they're like, Chita, you can do that as an individual. What can we do as a firm? And I was like, again, so much, right? And there were so many ideas and so many things, but you know, being strategic about what we're going to tackle and when became important, but it definitely challenged me to think bigger. And it's been a joy to kind of like know that the firm is serious and wants to do big things in the space.
That is so amazing. And I love the language that you use. It challenged you to think bigger. It started with this feeling of helplessness and hopelessness. And then it turned into this like, oh, I get a chance to help small businesses. And then you're like, wait a minute. I can actually impact so much more. So the evolution there is really interesting. So we're going to put a pin in that.
Okay.
But I'm curious in the woman who has developed in front of me today.
Okay, yeah.
So could you tell us a little bit about your like upbringing? Did it have much impact in it growing up?
Yeah, it did. So we'll take it all the way back. On the continent in Zambia, 8 Longwood Street. But I grew up in a home that, like, my mom, first of all, there was all these people in our house. It's like, who are all these people, first of all? But my mom took care of the family. Like, our society is very matriarchal. So, like, my mom became the person that the kids getting in trouble, go stay with Auntie Mary. And they'll be like, enroll in school and everything. I'm like, oh, I thought you were just here for a holiday, but you're going to school here, great, you know?
Okay.
So there were a lot of cousins and stuff like that, but I think I learned from example, like just taking care of each other as people. And I was little when my father passed, but I was telling you about, you know, the importance of home ownership and like the role that's played. We owned the home we lived in, and most people do it in Zambia, and you buy them flat out, like you buy them cash, or you build a house. You buy land and slowly build. So we were able to somewhat not be disrupted by his passing too much. There was some things that happened, won't get in family drama, but like we weren't disrupted by his death because we owned where we lived, and we actually had a second property that like brought in some rentals because my dad was obviously the breadwinner, my mom was secretary, but even as a secretary, she took care of other members of the family. So that desire to, or ability to serve with not much, right? The amount of impact she made in, like, you know, all these people who came and lived with us, starting out their careers because we were in the city. So I have cousins now who like work at these big corporations in Zambia that like they raised me. They're like my older siblings. They walked me to the school bus, but they stayed with us. And again, we didn't have much. But we made it. My mom made it enough, right? So there was always that, and then like also a higher societal, I guess, influence was I grew up when in the AIDS epidemic, right? And there were a lot of street children, and those are like kids whose both parents had died as a result of the epidemic. So either the father had AIDS, and then the mother passed soon after because, you know. And they were on the street, and you know, talk about social work. There wasn't, now it's been implemented where there's better tracking of like who's the next of kin, but like it's not very systematic. So, like if somebody dies and like they're not connected to their relatives, they're on the street, and it was literally 5-year-olds taking care of 3-year-old brothers on the streets. So I grew up watching that, and as somebody who only had one parent in the home and the other parent had passed, I identified with that so closely. Like, I was one parent away from that situation. I don't think my family would have allowed that, you know, because we were pretty connected, but still, like, it made me kind of realize that. And so, like, I was the kid who would hustle my mom's family and friends. I would try to convince them about how I was good and I did chores and I made these grades. Like, it wasn't a system where you made good grades and got paid for it, but if I made good grades, I was getting paid for it, okay? And if I was working in the garden, somebody was going to give me some money, and that was one place where I had a voice. And what I would do with that money is, like, on Sundays after church, there was like this donut shop. We have these cream donuts, and there's like cream in the middle, and like that was my favorite thing. I always loved sweets. But I wouldn't ever buy one if I couldn't buy two and like share with one of the street kids. So like from a very young age, I'm always the person who's just like, I know. I'm looking back at it, I'm like, who the heck was I? Excuse my French.
But that is so beautiful.
That was because I was like, I am them and they're me. Like we're not much different, and yet my life is completely different. And I think I'm still like that, where I see myself in a lot of people who are suffering, and I don't think I'm special for being sitting where I'm sitting and certain people being where they are. I think, our maybe life circumstances were different, but given the same opportunities, they probably would be soaring, right? So yes, serving kind of came from environment, what I saw in the home, and then as I got more opportunities, I saw that sometimes, there was opportunity to share, right? For the knowledge, my time. So yes, I always wanted to serve from a young age.
That is so beautiful, and it's really, there's so many parallels. I just want to say, you've said it before, like, there's nothing special about me, and I want to just say this. There is something special about everyone.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So instead of the flip where it's nothing special about me, one, there's something special about everyone. Mm-hmm. Two, everyone doesn't have the opportunity to like manifest their like special, their gift. Mm-hmm. So in that regard, yes, we are like everybody else. Mm-hmm. And then the thing that I also want to acknowledge in your story is that there's nothing different from us and the people that we serve besides like different opportunities, different makings, different like systems. So I just want to say like we're on a ride here, so they're going to find out that there's a lot special about you. Yeah. And along the way, I feel like we will see how you've been able to tap into that along the way. Okay.
I appreciate it. I'll take it. You're right. I am special.
Right?
But like, I don't think I'm extraordinary. That's maybe the term, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not extraordinary. Mm-hmm. I do have some sauce, mm-hmm. But I don't have, like a special gift or something.
Do what everyone does. And the extraordinary means that everyone is capable of doing what you do.
Exactly. That's the point I was trying to make. Everybody can do what I've been able to do.
Because you are giving me so much like energy and insight into like, okay, this is possible. This is what's going on outside of the realm. Because as an entrepreneur, I live in a bubble sometimes, and mm-hmm. even as an impact-driven person, you're like, when I met you, I'm like, oh my God, people actually do care. It's not just social workers. Right. Yeah. So, but yeah, you are awesome. You are so special. And so back to your story. Mm-hmm. I don't want to jump ahead too far. but you left Zambia at 15 mm-hmm. and came to Atlanta.
Yes.
Okay. And I don't want to jump over too fast, but am I jumping around?
No.
Okay, so now we're in Atlanta.
Yes, we're in Atlanta. And I went to North Springs, which is...
Oh, I went to Riverwood.
That's so funny. We're rivals, but we both were sucked at football.
Humble both of us here.
I bet we probably know some of the same people.
Probably do.
Okay. We'll continue that.
More to come.
More to come with that. So yeah, I went to North Springs and then Georgia State. And I think I was telling you a little bit about like picking a major. And I came and in the last quarter of 10th grade. And then the next 2 years, as you're aware, all about college, right? And I went from one system to like another. I remember like thinking SAT prep. I'm like, what is that? Mm-hmm. And like my mom didn't know. We all moved here at the same time. My mom didn't know the system either. So there's nobody to ask. I was the guy's office. I was really curious about the process, and people were just like, oh, you gotta pick a school. I'm like, how? And I remember like looking at rankings. I knew I wanted to be in the business space because actually in Zambia I took my first bookkeeping class. And I was good at it. Everyone was flunking out. And I was like, well, it's a competitive advantage.
You took a bookkeeping class at 15 or before 15.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Right. Okay. I did. It was pretty basic. It was literally T accounts the whole time. But I moved here and I joined FBLA. So, and what I'm realizing about my story is like I was always kind of like proactive maybe. I joined FBLA because I was like, oh, you have to join stuff. And somebody said it, and I was like, okay, we'll go there. I remember I actually went to UGA campus, and I was like, oh, that's really nice. But when I looked at how much it cost a year, I was like, 40 grand. Good Lord.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And, you know, I looked at how much you make as an accountant. I was like, maybe not that. So like, I did some research, looked at rankings. It's like, okay, I have to stay in-state because hope. So like, it was this whole analysis about where to go to school as a 15, 16-year-old, whatever. I was a nerd, still I'm a little bit, but did this whole thing, and I decided, okay, I'm going to Georgia State. But then Georgia was like, you can't just apply to one school, you need a backup school. So I was like, what? Why?
Just want the one.
Yeah. So I was like, that's money. Again, I was very conscious about what we did and didn't have. It costs money to apply to colleges. That's why, like, when I see like kids should apply to 80 schools in Texas, I'm like, dang, how did she afford that? But that's about here or there. But like, if you know where you're going, you don't need to apply to all that and get like a million scholarships for you to just turn them away. You know, that's I don't want to get on a soapbox, but like, there's a better way to do it. It makes for a good like viral story, but I don't know. Anyways,
it sounds like you were more efficient in your choices.
And my sister says I'm the hardest working lazy person she's met, and that's true. Like, I don't want to do a lot of work, but I will work hard when it's, you know, needed.
We have this saying where it's like, work smart, not hard. Yeah. But then sometimes when people just like work hard for no reason, you know,
like you can only go to 1, you can't go to 80. So why are you doing it? Yeah, I could get like 10 maybe. Like, you just want to, like, you know, if you really want to go for it. But sometimes I'm like, that's a lot of money. You got millions of dollars in scholarships, but you can only take $100,000.
Yeah.
You can't put it on a resume. I mean, maybe you could, but anyways.
You know. I'm following you.
Anyways, I went to go to Georgia State, and then I applied, I think, to like Georgia Southern as a backup. I think they waived my application fees, so I was happy about that. So maybe this is how they do it. And I got to Georgia State. I was really excited about that. Went there, and I remember my first accounting class, Accounting 101. There was this girl, Chita Kabulo. She came into the class, and she was, just poised. She was in her suit, and she just, like, seemed to have her shit together. And she was talking about this organization called NABA. And she said, the National Association of Black Accountants. I said that fast. National Association of Black Accountants. And she was just talking about the opportunities there. You meet the firms. And I really didn't know what direction I wanted my career to take. But like, seeing her and her talking so confidently about these opportunities, I was like, all right, let's see what that's about. And I went, and there were these young professionals there who were there to like network with us, and how she commanded the room, and like, they wanted her. I remember they wanted her, and like, I've never seen somebody with power like suit somebody else, you know, like, they were all about that. And I was like, I want to be like her. You know, and I was like, let's see what this NABA is about. So I joined, and again, I raised my hand. They needed a web developer, and I was like, I can do that. Still not. I can't even airdrop on my iPhone.
But you said absolutely.
Yeah, I did say that because like, the website's messed up. And for weeks they announced it, nobody was raising their hands. So I was like, I'm just on someone. I'm smart. And I don't know what I did in that job. I think I tried to update the website, and then I think I started messing it up, and I was just like, oh, I need to find somebody else to do this. And I ended up replacing myself because I was like, this is not me at all. But I learned that maybe I'm not a technology person, but I didn't know that then, and I wanted to serve. But they liked my energy, and they kept me on the board, and I had different roles. And then there was a point where like the board fell apart. I think I was secretary. The board fell apart. And we showed up the next school year, and the counselor was like, how are we going to do this, Chita? I think you should be the president. And I was like, me, what? I'm an immigrant. I don't know the system. I don't know what's going on. She's like, well, if someone's going to do it, it might as well be you, and I think you can do it. And she really gave me the confidence. She was the first person who said, I see it in you. I believe you can do it. Let's go. Yeah. And I had to literally go around campus like asking people to join my board. Hey, I need a vice president. They're like, what is NABA? I'm like, I don't know, but you're supposed to be the vice president of it, you know? Wow. I recruited a whole team. Kayla's best friend, Rico, for Circle, I recruited him on my team. I knew him from like outside school when I met him on campus. He wasn't even an accounting major. And he wasn't even in a business school, but I was like, Rico, I need you.
Yeah.
And my team was excellent. We were able to like grow membership. At the end of my tenure, we were the chapter of the year. we grew up paid membership to like from, I think there were 5 paid members when I got on to like 60, 75, something like that.
Wow.
You know, we had our corporate relationships because like they weren't giving us any money when I took it, and at the end of the year they were buying us like t-shirts and stuff because like that's how clubs are maintained, like corporations give sponsorships, and it's not a lot of money, but it's hard to get those dollars. It's hard to get those dollars, but like I ended up doing a lot of that, and you know, it was interesting because I think I undersell myself sometimes, and I think I was struggling with the same problem because like the firms were not all about Chita. I'm like, I'm doing other things. It came later, but like I was getting frustrated because I was like, I should be like Teresa. Maybe I should just like come court me, you know, give me some money for stuff. But it did come. It did come. Like I got an offer a year before the end of my master's. I was able to work, which you know is a dream that never happens. And I remember interning. I interned at a bank here in Atlanta, the mid-sized bank. And in my interview, I got asked one question. And I talked about NABA, how I was able to grow, and like my NABA story was my interview, and that was the only question they asked, and it was 5 minutes, and they're like, okay, well thanks for coming in, and I'm sitting there like, that's it? But like I asked one question, I told them all about that, and I guess they got what they needed, and I remember going home and like saying, I think I bought tequila because I was like, that was shit, like what kind of interview lasts 5 minutes, you know? I was so distraught, I was like, oh my god, I really wanted that, I needed, you know, to put myself through grad school. And so I went, I was like, I guess I'll send this thank you email. So I sent my thank you email, and the guy called me, he's like, oh my gosh, you sent it right away. We love you. Can you start on Monday? And I'm sitting here like, really? He's like, yeah, no, we loved your story. I'm like, you only asked one question. He's like, yeah. And so it was an interesting opportunity. So that came out of that, and actually my job right out of college also came from NABA. I went to a conference, and again, it was one of those interviews where I walked out thinking, good Lord, because they forgot about me. I wasn't on deck to interview. I had applied for the job online. They didn't pick my resume, but I went to the stand during the day, and one of my mentors, Rick Warren, was sitting there, and he's like, come at 5 o'clock. You know, we'll see what we got. And I was like, okay. So I went, and they had like closed shop. They had broken down their stand. Yeah. And I'm like, somebody said I should come for an interview. What is going on? And the girl, 2 people interviewed me. One is now the CEO of like what is Portland Girls Club, a big nonprofit in Chicago. And this other girl, she was sick. Her nose was running. She was red in the face. And I went in with her first, and she had a flight. She was running late because of my interview. And I was just like, oh my god.
Like, this is going to be terrible.
It was. I was like, and then I went in the next door with the CEO of Chicago. My boy's like, what's the YMCA?
Okay, YMCA. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And she's this black woman, so much power, so much poise. And she kind of was just looking at me, you know, like, it was so intimidating. But again, I told my NABA spiel, how I was a leader and all these badass things I had done. She asked me to introduce myself, and I just went into my spiel, right? And then she asked some other questions, but you know, she was very quiet. She didn't say much, or she's not very reactionary. She's very strong poker face. And I was just like, I should have just stayed in my room because whatever. And when I got to Atlanta again, Rick called me. He's like, oh, she recommended you strongly and all this stuff, and you were one of 3 people that were moving forward from the whole conference and all this stuff. And apparently I was the first person out of my class that was hired. The office was new, and you know, so it's so funny how like the right opportunity will hit. And that guy was my sponsor throughout my time there. And even after I left, when I was looking to move from my previous job to my next, I called him, and he called some people in his network just to try and place me because, you know, we're still kind of connected, and he still thinks I'm badass, you know, again, I met him right out of college, and I only worked there for 2 years, but he's still somebody I can call and say, you know, I need help, or I'm feeling this way, and how do I navigate the situation? But I've been, you know, really blessed in some of the, again, just stepping out and just saying, let me try this out. Trying things out,
it served you so well.
It has. I'm very fortunate in that regard.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So you have the foundation of, one, you've seen your mother serve as a mom in your family, right? So, and it might seem like a micro way of serving, but that's how you got your foundation in caring for others. And then it sounds like you got even more external when it came to the kids, the street kids living on the street, and then identifying that there's so much more that makes us the same, that makes us different. And that kind of ingrained this like serving mentality. So you come over to Atlanta, and you're in one of the more like prestigious neighborhoods, right? And you find your way in a system where you're able to tap into FBLA, and then raise your hand for that, raise your hand for NAPA. Once you get into, actually educate yourself about the college system. So the high school to college system, thrive at that, get to a place where you're in NAPA, and then use your authentic self to just kind of thrive.
I think also, you said something about like learning the system. NAPA helped me learn the corporate system. Because like there was no way for me, like my mom, they still have like pensions and stuff. Like the corporate environment in Zambia and here are different. Like I didn't have that in any, and none of my friends' parents really worked like corporate jobs. So there was nobody that I could get that from. So NABA really was that avenue for me to kind of like learn what to expect. And it taught me, I remember like my first few interviews, I speak pretty low. Like I'm quiet, and like in our culture, you don't look men in the eye. Like, when you greet them, you kind of like kneel a little bit. There's this like thing, and it's hard to shake off. And I still notice myself when I'm making eye contact. Like I feel it. It's like this thing where it's not like a natural thing for me to look people in the face, And here we are looking at each other in our eyes. Yeah, but it's calm. But NABA was the first place where I started to like not really correct, but learn the system, like you said. Learn the way that business is done here. My handshake, there's still some intimidating people that like, there's a part of me that will like glitch and like default into like this handshake of like almost like bowing down a little bit. And I have to correct for that, but it's so funny, like when they're like strong Zambian black men, it comes out. It's so, I catch myself doing it. I'm like, it's conditioning. But again, I have to like learn the American system, and NABA was a safe place for me to do that. And, I learned how to be a leader, how to serve. I mean, intrinsically, we're all kind of leaders, right? But how to do it effectively in corporate America space. And so it gave me, I think, that serving through NABA has continued through my career. And NABA is still a place that I go back to kind of talk about. Those people were mentors, right? So people in the professional chapter. I remember when I just joined my first job, I think I was telling you a little bit about it, where I was like the first girl on the team, the black girl. I think somebody once made a comment about my hair and saying, you always have different hair. I remember then like this became like my default work hairstyle, was like curly hair, because I was just like, I don't want the distraction, right? But that's not a choice like everybody has to make, right? But the mentorship, and I remember going back to my NABA family and saying, I don't know, I don't speak football. Maybe talk about that. I don't speak football. My clients, again, we're in the South, so a lot of banks are, especially the size of bank that like is my sweet spot, which is community banks. It's like some of them is family run, like generations and generations of CEOs from the same family. And it's the good old boys club, and like here I am, very energetic black African woman right out of college, asking them how their process works and challenging them on it. And I mean, it can be really intimidating, right? Sitting there looking them in the eye and saying, well, this is what I think. And they're looking at you like, wait, how old are you? And that's been a response a lot of times. It's just, how old are you? I feel like I'm mature now. Hopefully they're not asking me that now anymore. But like then, in my little orange dress with my little jacket, they really were looking at me like I was, out of water. But like NABA gave me the confidence, because like I would go back to other women, black women and some black men who related and, told me, well, they might, but so what, Chita? If you are good at what you do, it doesn't matter. If you speak from a place of truth and you're knowledgeable, it will come. And it has, right? Because people can say a lot about me, even currently on my teams, as like who I am as a person, but what they can say is the skill set I bring, right? Like I have built my banking knowledge, I know the operations of a bank, and so like when I speak to my clients, they can respect me because I know what they do. Even though I'm not the expert like they are, I can speak their language. I use their terms.
Yes.
And like I can bring up something that's happening in the industry and I bring that together, and so it's like, oh, I'm speaking to somebody who knows what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And now they start telling me all about their things and they get excited, because I am naturally curious. And so like I'm curious about what they're doing. And so I'll ask them things that maybe aren't even like super related to like why they're there. And they'll tell me they want to talk about the things that are exciting in their world, just like anybody else.
Yeah.
And when they can see that you appreciate that and you understand it, it gives you respect. So like over time that's come, and I'm really excited that I'm in a place now where it's people still try it. People still try it.
You said that, one, I want to touch on the cultural capital, that linguistic capital that we talked about before, being able to speak other people's language. I just want to put a pin in that. And if you guys are curious, I highly suggest you read that. But you said something that's really important, and it opens the door for you to be able to relate, and they want to talk about themselves. So of course it gives you a kind of a door into their world a little bit. Do you feel like it happens reverse? Do you feel like being able to connect with other allows, maybe not all of them, but anyone to, kind of extend themselves into your world?
It's interesting because sometimes yes, but I don't know that I love it all the time. The reason I say that is sometimes it's well-meaning, but people are so, like their perceptions of like what my world looks like are so ill-informed that it puts a bad taste in my mouth. And I'll give an example. I don't know who's gonna watch this, but one of my clients really wanted to, I guess, show that they related, and it was the time of COVID. And we were talking about farming, and I was like, oh yeah, back home, we used to have a garden, whatever. And it got a little bit racially driven, in some of like their ideas about like Africans, and we were talking about blood type and like how blood types are inferior. And I remember just sitting there like, okay, let's bring this back, right, on track. So like I think a lot of the times when some people try to come into my world, it just shuts me down a little bit, because especially in a professional setting, I don't want to, it's sensitive, right? Like I don't want to say, well, actually, like super informed people, because I don't want to embarrass them or offend or cross a line, right? Because that's still business for us, right? I'm still there to serve them. And so, a lot of the times when people try to enter my world, it's not informed or the right way. And I take the stance that I'm not there to teach them the right way to engage with me. I do that in some of my other capacities, but if I'm there to serve you, I think it will detract or hurt that relationship, right? Because now, they might put me in a different, bucket. It's just difficult, and all these different levels that it takes away from like what I'm there to accomplish. And so just being sometimes like get back on the mission and put my feelings aside. So like, I do, my brother's always like, I'm just trying to be nice. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And so yes, I understand that sometimes from a well-meaning place, but it's still sometimes hurtful. So, I try to take my ego out of it, because people, it should be too excited, right? If I come to your world, it should come to my world, but maybe focus on a little bit more. One as a Black American, right? But especially when I hear African, all kinds of stories about animals and and zoos come up, and I'm just like, okay.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's like what you're saying is, one, we do so much to educate ourselves on how to navigate in the banking space, much less in a non-Black space, much less in a non-African space. But when we finally do, and then we feel like they're reciprocal, not even reciprocal, they are receptive to us coming into their world, because we understand you feel like it doesn't necessarily happen the same way because there's not a lot of effort that's done on the back end so that they ask informed questions, because you ask informed questions, which opens their heart to you.
And you know what, and maybe it's lack of, in the age of Google, I hate to say it's lack of resources, but a lack of interest, and also there's no motivation for them to do it, right? Like, we have to do it because we're trying to take home a check or get into an industry that we don't own, or, you know, that's the driver for us. But like, what's their motivation to like get to know us apart from, you know, they don't have to, right? And maybe the right way is to just be like, I'm gonna check you, right? So that now they think twice about it, but they won't care, right? So there's no motivation. And I think, you know, in the allyship conversation, that's something that needs to happen. Is if you're not taking effort to like know your team members, your teammates, and like be really interesting, genuinely interested. I mean, you can tell people who are genuine and people who are just like trying to make some bullshit connection, right? Or sometimes it's not even like they're trying to show that they're interested, but it just also feels like ill-spirited sometimes. I think we become very well versed, kind of like discerning whether something is genuine, well-intentioned, or just weird. You know, and in my career, I think I've experienced all of it, where it's like, oh, that wasn't the right thing to say, but like you meant well, and like maybe I'll engage because we have a relationship, and I think it's all relationship based. Or, you know, I didn't know about you, and then you asked this, and I'm like, that's weird, I'm just gonna leave that alone and just like continue on like the professional side and like doing the work. And that's something that I'll stop asking you about your stuff, because like I am generally, I want you to do well, right? Like I want to know, hey, you said your mom fell, how is she doing, or whatever it is. Like, I'll still follow up, but I just also have the awareness that you won't come into my world the same way. Like, you won't show up for me, and I think that's fine. Like, somebody once said, in just like relationships and friendships, not everybody will be what you are to them, right? How I show up for you is not how you show up for me, and that's fine. We have to be okay with that, but we have to find the people who show up for us and like take care of those people as well. So it's complicated to be in corporate America and the diverse, because even that's like a diverse way of thought. Because like in my organic environments, I don't have to worry about that. But in that environment, I do, and that's a diverse thing for me, right?
Yeah,
it's
not for
different.
Exactly.
So
I hear your problem-solving hat. I can hear so much of your problem-solving self or personality in as you share your story, because you are sharing it so authentically, but you're sharing it also from a logical and like a place where you're results driven, right? So it's like as you tell your story, and so I'm going to finish the thought, but as you tell your story, you rationalize it and you understand how the mission is to help the client do X, Y, and Z in their banking, right? And then you understand that you come into the room as a Black woman, but that sounds secondary to the mission, right? The mission is to get this done. So that, I think, provides sanity in this corporate space where we're trying to balance who we are and then what we do. So I'm curious to know, well, first, if anything's coming up for you, feel free at any time, but I'm curious to know how your identity has formed as a Black woman, or I guess as an African woman, and then as an African American woman.
The corporate space? Or just period?
You know?
I mean, I think, you know, you just talk about problem solving, I think that comes from like being a Bemba Black woman. You know what I mean? Like, that comes from like that I have 2 eggs and 2 tomatoes and some vegetables. I have 8 people to feed. How are we gonna make this work? Figuring that out. My mom said in Bemba, but I'll translate it as a place of lacking breeds ingenuity. When you don't have something, you get creative as heck. And so like I think I'm used to that, right? Because a lot of the times we're working under some kind of constraint. Luckily, you know, I'm comfortable now. Like, but even like just thinking of like coming out of college, like I can't believe like some of the things I was able to do as a college student. The fact that I traveled abroad. I had no money. Like now when I travel abroad, the amount of money I spend, and it's not like like the experience is that much different. But like now the things I need to have, all these things, right? But like I made it work, you know? When I talk about how credit card points, okay, I got creative, I figured it out, I wanted to go, I didn't have a lot, I went, and my rent was still paid. You know?
I just want to, you know, one time for the one time.
And so like I think that comes from like watching my aunties, they figured it out. You know, my mom, like there were times like when the water was shut down, right, growing up in Zambia, and I remember I had a little boyfriend then, and he always talks about how we used to have these conversations when I was like, literally, I was stealing water is what I was doing. There was like a place in the pump where you could like hook up a hose pipe and would hook it up and like get water for the day, and I don't know, he would come by and like we'll chat. It was so endearing to him, and I'm like, do you know what was actually happening? Right, like
use your ingenuity.
Like he thought it was like this. He remembers it so differently, right? It's like this romantic thing for him. But we made it work, right? We made it work, and we, you know, it's just how it is. But yeah, I think so. Being a Black woman always gave me that. But you're right. I think there was a part when I moved here when it wasn't important to be like a Zambian person or a Zambian woman. There was a point. I was a teenager, right? And I wanted to fit in. So like the dress or the things that I did or how I engaged were just a way of like, okay, I need to like integrate into society. This is what my friends are doing, right? But now I think I'm a little bit more comfortable, and I think that just comes with age and just like not, you know, it's like whatever, it is what it is. People are still going to love me, and if they don't, maybe they'll love people I want to be with, right? So now I think I'm just like more comfortable saying, you know, I'm Zambian, I'm active in my community, people know that about me, and then things that I find uncomfortable, I just don't engage, right? I don't need to prove who I am to anybody else, and I think I have pretty dope people around me. Like I think I attract pretty good people, dope energy. I always brag on my friends, they're all doing some amazing things, so it's okay. And they all think I'm special enough because I am truly an introvert, and I say, oh, my extrovert friends pick me. They only want you. So I'm like, why do I have to show up for people who I don't even know when the people who know me are like, we want you in our lives? So I think that comes, and then in the work world, I think, you know, similarly, right? I think for the most part, like when I show up as my happy go lucky self, the right people like see it, and that's okay. That some people maybe I wish would get it that don't, and that's fine. Like, how do I make sure that people who are seeing it are advocates for me and are sponsors and are giving me what I need? And it's, especially in my current role, there've been like some situations that have been challenging where people are just like motivated. It seems like they're motivated to see you lose. They want you to lose, and it's like they give it energy. And like I don't know what that's about. Like that's not a feeling I've ever had towards somebody. Because I don't know. That's just, again, so many issues. So many. It's like, is your life that perfect that you are really motivated by seeing me like not be successful?
Yeah.
Like I have real problems, and not just my own, right? Other people's problems that I think about that could be solved by like $50, right?
Yeah.
And so like that, like my family, the things that we're going through as a family, and my country, the things we're going through, the things that I see that are a shortfall in that, like I just couldn't give energy into like trapping somebody up or whatever. And I see that, and it's hard not to give it energy. It's not hard not to be consumed by it. But what I've learned in the last year of COVID, because we had to sit out with ourselves a lot, is it's okay. And it's taken me a while to be okay with like people who are not supporters or big fans of Chita. It was my first time in my life. It's like, you don't like me?
Exactly.
Are you kidding? What is there not to love? Exactly. No, seriously. What is wrong with you? But, they're going to exist. I wish I learned that in high school, because I think had some people like that in high school. I didn't, right? Like, I just minded my business. There was too much to learn. There was too much growth that needed to happen. There was too many changes happening in me and around me. Yeah. So, like, I didn't have time to, like, give attention to people like maybe and maybe it happened. I have my friends always tell me like, Chita, you just don't be catching stuff. I'm like, girl, whatever. You know, when somebody's like shady, I don't even like. It doesn't register. I just like move forward. Yeah. Like that's on you and your heart, and that's your energy that you have to deal with. Yeah. And so like it's happened. It never registered. It didn't. So like this is the first time I'm experiencing it and like being aware of it and like trying to navigate and whew, Lord, you know. Yeah, it can be a lot. It can be a lot, but you know, I've found peace with it. Like last year I was struggling with it. I really couldn't understand, but I'm still pretty dope. Girl,
say it louder. I am still pretty dope. Say that, girl. I would say you have accomplished so much, and like the way that the world organically has shaped for you to succeed is amazing, bar none. You have achieved so much, and I know why that Napa story is so impressive. So I hope you know at this point, like it tells me even now, and that was almost 6 or 7, 8 years ago. Yeah, and so I'm curious, I know you want to accomplish so much more, right? I'm sure you have a lot down the pipeline. So where do you go for support in terms of your career and navigating that African-American, African woman, and corporate professional brand in getting to where you want to go?
You know, I don't have a great answer for that, unfortunately. I think I don't have like one place, right? I think it depends, and means my dramatics, but like when I'm faced with like a big career thing, it's like, oh my god, everything is wrong. But I think I talk to everyone, right? Like but I try to get different perspectives. I have fortunately a Zambian black woman who's a mentor. She works at Blue Cross Blue Shield. She's done it for a very long time, and she's close to C-suite, right? She's pretty high up, and she's somebody I'm doing something with, like at the community level and stuff. So like when I go to her and we can have like a big sister kind of conversation and just like tell her, and she knows like all of the things. So there's that perspective. And then I talk to you about like Rick, the first partner who hired me. He's like a voice that I trust. Like when I got my first promotion out of college into a senior, he was like, in 10 years you can be partner. I'm not gonna be partner in 10 years, but like he said that with so much confidence, and he was so sure. He believed, and I don't know if I believe, but it's so refreshing to have somebody who's just like, you can do it. Like, I see the magic, I see the fire in you, and I want you to support that. I will put my political capital to supporting that, your dream. So like sometimes I'll call him. I don't do a good job of like keeping in touch, but like when I do call, he's always like, oh my god, yes, let's do lunch, and he'll buy me lunch, and we'll have steak and potatoes, and we chat it up. And you know, sometimes it's hard. I try to, because it's hard to also read people's intentions. That's one thing like I'm trying to get better at. Again, I'm very like direct and very kind of like, if you don't say what it is that you don't like, I'm not gonna know, right? Yeah. So like I don't like people who are like
try to go around about way to get you to.
And it's like, what are you saying? Why can't you just say it? So like, why do I have to like fix the problem and decipher what the heck you're saying? How do I know I'm fixing the right problem? But anyways, so the thing I found, like whatever company I've been at, if it's like a big career thing, there's they work for the fun, right? And then they are also ambitious. So like there's sometimes where like you have to take that advice with a grain of salt, right? If you're in the same firm, because like they want you to stay, or they want you to stay instead of this position because it maybe feeds their agenda. And there's some people who aren't like that, like who tell you straight up, but it's hard. So like I think I try to get some advice from like leaders. So again, I don't have like a person, and then like I sit with all of it. I think back to my analytics, like I gather, I sit with it. Roll it over. And then like the questions of like, where am I trying to go and what's comfortable, what feels happy, what am I excited about? Yeah. Did I have fun today? So my nephew used to ask me when he was 3, and I still keep it. He was so smart. I would call him. He's like, did you have fun today? I'm like, I don't know. But now I try to have fun because I love that. That childlike thing, right? What is fun? Like, where can I have some fun? Because the work is gonna get done, and it could be miserable, or it could be a little bit of fun. And, so I sit with it, and then like I decide. Again, I also talk to friends, family. I have some friends in the profession. Whoever I'm dating at the time. Like I think there's not one person. I think I just try to, because sometimes people outside of you do see things in you, but only you know what's in your heart and like what makes you happy. Mm-hmm. So like it's good to get people to, you know, every now and then I'll do like a survey of like, what do you think of my qualities? So like to just get feedback on me as a person. Yeah. And then say, you know, I don't think of myself that way. I wonder what that's about, and exploring that. Mm-hmm. So I love to get feedback, but again, it's that inputs, mm-hmm. and then I decide.
That's great. Yeah. I think you doing a survey is one of the things that I even work with my clients, where I'm like, mm-hmm. it's funny that you do that, right? But sometimes we are in our bubble and we don't even think about getting that feedback. Right. It's called like, so even when I was, you know, executives get their 360 feedback, and sometimes it's when they're on their way out the door, and then sometimes when they're on their way up. But I think we can all benefit from a 360. So I just think that's really awesome.
Yeah. You gotta have a board of directors, and who's on your board?
Yeah. Who's on your board? Yeah. So as we think about next steps, I'd love for you to take a moment if needed. But think about 3 to 5 years out and give us something that we can look at Chita and be like, look, I saw her when she was and she said she wanted to accomplish a couple of things, and my mentor does it. So it's like literally coming up for me so naturally. Yeah. What are some of the things that you, knowing that the only thing that keeps you from doing whatever it is like raising your hand? What are some of the things that you could possibly see yourself raising your hand for in 3 to 5 years?
That's a good question. It's a hard question because, like you said, things just like happen. It's funny, like when you're, though somebody said, when you're on the path, the way appears. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm on the path to be a lot more involved in helping, at least where I'm seated, like have more of a voice in like what we do for our minority, Black and Brown communities. I don't know what it will look like 45 years from now, but I think that's something that will stay. And then I also see myself pursuing more opportunities in Zambia. I told you a little bit about the project I'm working on, but I'm really just interested in building a network there. And in the future, when I have a family, I think that would be a second home base for me. So maybe starting to be more intentional about planting seeds there and building some kind of a life there. So in 45 years, I should have hopefully a little bit more progress with that.
I love it. So I'm going to be like, did you raise your hand for that opportunity? And the thing I love about opportunities is when we know what the opportunity looks like that we're looking for, it'll present itself, and it might seem weird, but it's not weird because mm-hmm. we've already spoken it into existence. Right.
Yes, all right.
So as we head out, I think there is a woman somewhere, and I do this on every episode. So there is a woman who is somewhere along the journey that you've already trailed, mm-hmm. and she needs either a bit of guidance or a bit of a word to help her see beyond the situation that she's in right now. So maybe she's not raising her hand, or maybe she, hasn't been quite acclimated into her new culture. What would be that one thing and that person that you'd like to reach back to and speak to right now?
I would say that, if you're in the room, you're supposed to be there. So speak up, speak firmly. The thing that you're thinking is obvious, that hasn't been said, probably isn't as obvious as you think, and that's your unique contribution. So walk into those rooms and speak confidently in the things that you're thinking, the things you're feeling, even though it's so different from what's being spoken. I think that's our competitive advantage, right? Because our backgrounds are so different, our perspective is so different. So of course it's not being said. So be confident in the thoughts that you're having, the ideas that you have. For sure. I think I'm still learning to find that voice as well, but yes, it's valid. Let's speak louder the things that we believe or think.
That is awesome. You have been such a blessing. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Chita.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you guys for listening and for watching. And if you'd like to get in contact with Chita, how can they reach you?
I'm on LinkedIn, so that's a good avenue. I'm also on Instagram. My Instagram is very personal, but I think on LinkedIn, I engage with whoever sends me a message, and I also like to follow a lot of people's career and things that they're doing through LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, there you have it. Please reach out if something did touch your soul or touches your career journey and you'd like to connect. Go ahead and connect with Miss Chita. Again, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. And I will see you guys on the flip side.
Bye.
Bye.